All right. So have you ever like dug through your bag for like change, trying to like find that lunch money, you know,
Oh, yeah.
pickup line or whatever?
It's the
It's
worst.
the worst.
Yeah.
So that's what we're diving into today, this whole like new wave of using prepaid cards in school cafeterias.
Yeah.
We've got this fascinating article from Advanced Technology Systems, and it kind of paints this picture of the future
Mm-hmm.
where you don't need cash, at least not in the lunch line.
Yeah.
So is this good? Is this bad? Let's find out.
Right. Like, it's funny how technology always seems to pop up in these really unexpected places, right? I mean, you don't
Yes.
think of school cafeterias as being, like, on the cutting edge,
Right.
but this whole move to a cashless system, it's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, it really is. So before we even like get into the nitty-gritty of like, is it good, is it bad? Let's just like break down what it is. What are we talking about here?
Yeah.
What does it actually look like when a kid uses one of these cards?
Okay, so picture this, right? A student walks up to the lunch counter, their tray's loaded, pizza, maybe a salad.
Worry.
Yeah, right? But when they get to the cashier, there's no, like, digging through their backpacks for, like, crumpled dollar bills or anything like that. Instead, they just, like, tap or swipe a card, almost like you would at, like, a store or something.
Yeah.
And that card, it's linked to, like, a prepaid account.
Okay.
And then the transaction goes through what they call a point of sale system or POS system.
West.
Yeah, you've probably heard that.
Yeah.
Those are becoming really, really common. Like everyone.
So it's like a digital lunch ticket, but like
You know.
it's high tech.
Exactly. It's like a high-tech lunch ticket. And it's not just for the kids. Like the parents can actually get involved too.
Oh, really?
Parents can load money onto these cards like remotely.
Oh, wow.
They can do it online or even through an app on their phone.
Interesting.
And they can track their kids' spending too.
Really?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
like imagine being able to see exactly how much your kid is spending on those extra cookies every day.
Oh my gosh. Some parents would be like all over that.
I know, right?
So it's good for parents, potentially.
Yeah.
What about for the schools themselves?
Yeah, so schools actually benefit a lot from this too.
Okay.
The article talks about this, and one of the biggest things is efficiency.
Okay.
So think about all the time and energy that schools waste just like handling cash.
Yeah.
Counting it, storing it, making sure it all adds up at the end of the day.
Yeah, the whole thing.
It's a whole thing, right? But if you go cashless, it's like you streamline everything,
Makes sense.
reduce the chances of like someone messing up,
Okay.
and then the staff has more time to like actually focus on other things.
This is not even just about like the transaction being quicker.
great.
It's like a whole system overhaul.
Exactly. Yeah, it's about like saving time, saving money, like making everything smoother.
Wow.
And then there's the whole data thing.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Because with all this, you get all that data.
Exactly. With a system like this, schools can see exactly what kids are buying when they're buying it.
Interesting.
So they can use that information to like make the menus better, manage their inventory, even like change prices if they need to. Like imagine a school could be like, okay, we're noticing that the healthy options aren't selling as well.
Right.
Maybe we could offer a discount.
It's like a whole like real-time look at what's happening.
Exactly. It's like having a dashboard for your cafeteria.
That's wild. Okay, so we've got efficiency data. One thing I thought was really interesting in the article was this idea that these cards could help teach kids about financial literacy.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
What do you think about that?
I think it's a great idea, honestly, because we're talking about giving kids like a real way to learn about budgeting and money.
Yeah.
Suddenly that decision of, do I get the cookie today or do I save up for pizza day? It's like a real life budget lesson.
Right.
It's not just theoretical anymore.
Instead of like us trying to like force them to learn it in school when they don't care, they're like actually having to do it.
Exactly. They're living it, you know?
That's really interesting.
And that's where it really sinks in, right?
Yeah.
Like when you're actually having to make those choices.
Yeah, you're not just talking about it, you're like doing it.
Exactly.
It's like tricking them into learning.
Kind of, yeah. It's
Yeah.
like sneaking in a life skill while they're busy thinking about ice cream sandwiches and stuff.
That's amazing. I love it.
Right.
Sneak it in there.
Sneak it in there.
But okay, so we've talked about some of the good stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but like with anything, there's always another side to the coin, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
We've got to look at the good and the bad.
Absolutely.
And the article does mention a few potential downsides.
Okay.
So let's dig into those.
Sounds good.
Like one of the big ones that comes to mind right away is cost. I mean, this stuff can't be cheap.
No, you're absolutely right. Like implementing this kind of system, there are going to be some upfront costs.
Yeah.
And schools are already like, I mean, working with really tight budgets a lot of times.
Yeah.
So we were talking about buying the hardware, like the card readers, the POS terminals,
Right.
the software to run it all,
Right.
training the staff to actually use it.
Yeah.
It's a lot to think about.
It really is. Like, that's a significant investment.
Yeah.
Which kind of leads to another question I had, which is about accessibility.
Oh, okay.
So we've got these families, low-income families, who might not even have bank accounts or, like, easy access to technology.
Right.
How do we make sure that this doesn't, like, leave those kids behind?
That's a really important point, and the article does actually address that.
Okay.
Because for a system like this, to be fair, to work for everyone,
Right.
schools have to have some kind of backup plan for these students.
Right.
So that might mean like offering other ways to put money on the cards.
Okay.
Maybe they have cash kiosks at the school.
Okay.
Or they partner with like a local organization to help families who might need it.
So it's really not just about, like, the tech.
Yeah.
It's about making sure everyone can use it.
Exactly. It's about making sure it's equitable.
Yeah, and that kind of makes me think about another thing that I feel like we don't talk about enough with new technology, which is data privacy,
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
especially when it comes to kids.
Absolutely.
So what are we talking about here? What kind of data is being collected? How are we keeping it safe?
Well, you're right to be concerned about that because with a system like this, schools are going to have a lot of information about what kids are buying,
Right.
like down to the snack cake.
Right.
When they're buying it, how often they're buying it.
And is that okay? Like, I don't know.
That's the thing, right? The article doesn't really get into like the specifics, like
Right.
how are they encrypting the data? How are they storing it? Who has access to it?
Those are all good questions.
Right. Like we're talking about a system where potentially every single purchase a kid makes is being tracked.
Yeah.
We better be careful with that information.
It's a little Big Brother-ish, isn't it?
It can be, and that's why transparency is so important.
Yeah.
Parents need to know what's being collected, how it's being used,
Right.
and most importantly, how it's being protected.
Yeah, totally. And that's on the schools and the companies making this technology.
Absolutely. Like this shouldn't be hidden in some long legal document.
Right.
This needs to be an open conversation.
100%.
Okay.
Okay, so we've talked about the cafeteria, but the article also mentioned that this technology could be used for other stuff too,
Yeah, like what?
like school uniforms or even like field trips.
Oh, interesting.
So is this just the beginning? Are we like headed towards a future where cash is like totally obsolete?
I mean, it's definitely possible, right? And it's not just schools. We're seeing this everywhere.
That's true.
Contactless payments are everywhere now.
Yeah, that's true. I use my phone for everything.
Right, exactly.
I don't even carry cash anymore.
So in a way, these schools are kind of just reflecting these larger trends that are already happening.
Which is a whole other conversation, right? Like,
Totally.
what does a cashless society even look like?
Right.
Is that good? Is that bad?
So many questions.
So many questions. It's a lot to think about. But before we go too far down that road,
Yeah.
there's one more thing I wanted to circle back to.
Yeah, what's that?
You mentioned sustainability earlier.
Oh, right, right.
And the article talked about how some schools in India actually saw a decrease in food waste
Yeah.
after they started using these cards.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting, actually.
It is interesting because I wouldn't have thought about that connection. Like, how does going cashless equal less food in the trash?
So it all comes down to data.
Oh, yeah.
Because when you have the system, you can see exactly what's being bought.
Right.
When it's being bought, how much is being bought.
So they can like plan better, right?
Yeah. Exactly. They can adjust the menus. They can even change prices if they need to like encourage kids to make healthier choices.
So it's not just like guessing what kids might eat.
Right. It's like using actual data to make decisions.
That's really cool.
Yeah. And it's good for the environment and it saves the schools money.
Win-win.
Exactly.
So we've covered a lot today.
We really have.
We talked about how this technology works, the good, the bad,
The good, the bad, and the data.
the data. Oh my gosh, so much data.
Right. Like that's kind of the theme of all of this.
It really is.
It's like it's convenient, it's efficient, but there are also these big questions about privacy and equity.
And those are conversations we need to be having.
Absolutely. We can't just like throw technology at a problem and hope for the best.
Right. We have to think about the consequences.
Thanks.
Well, on that note, we'll leave everyone with something to think about.
Food for thought.
Literally, right?
Yeah.
Because we were talking about lunch.
That's right.
But really, it's about more than just the cafeteria. It's about how we use technology
Yeah.
in all aspects of our lives.
Well said.
So until next time, keep asking questions, keep digging deeper, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.